This is the McDonald's fries of accessibility talks. All the tips I'm giving you today are cheap, they're quick, and they're easy. And hopefully, unlike McDonald's fries, they won't give you a heart attack. 10 stupidly easy things you can do to be accessible. My name is Rachel Morgan Trimmer. My company is sparkleclass.com, and I am a neurodiversity coach and consultant. And that means I work one-to-one with people with autism or ADHD or dyslexia, and I help them with their business or their side hustle or their career. And I also work with companies who want to be more inclusive to neurodiverse people. And the reason for that is because we're up to 50% more productive. So it's definitely worth doing. So these tips they do have a bit of a neurodiverse angle, but I'm hoping you can use them for all kinds of accessibility. So tip 1, tell people what to expect. It's funny, isn't it? When you go to a conference, they always tell you the schedule, which is really useful so you know what time it starts and what time it finishes, and maybe most importantly, what time the food is served. But if you go to a theatre, they don't tell you that, do they? They don't tell you when it finishes, so you don't know if you're going to be able to get the last train or tell somebody what time to pick you up, or, as has happened to me many times, you might be sitting through a really bad play and you just need to know when it's all going to be over. Tip 2, remember that they don't have your knowledge. So the people you're talking to, they might not be able to understand some of the words that you're using, or they might not be picturing things the same way that you do. Here's an example of when I asked my husband to go and fetch my black shoes. So I had in my head exactly which pair of shoes that I meant, and of course, this is what he was faced with. So remember that people don't have your knowledge and they're not visualising the things the way that you are. Tip 3, make your information memorable. If you want people to remember what, directions or some of the things that you're saying, it's really useful to have something a little bit unusual or a little bit different for them to kind of make that connection and make it sort of stick in their brain. This is a photograph I took when I was in Cambodia in a bar, and I needed the toilet, so I saw this sign and I was a little bit taken aback by the word crocodile, and I thought, oh, maybe it's a picture of a crocodile or maybe even a sculpture of a crocodile, and it was actually a pit of live crocodiles which you had to cross a bridge over in order to get to the toilet. So it was very memorable. It told me that I was going in the right direction for the toilet, and I'm not saying that you should perhaps have live crocodiles as your memorable bit of information, but you can see how having something a little bit unusual helps you have that information, helps you retain information. Number 4, use pictures. This is particularly useful if you're communicating with dyslexic people or perhaps people who don't speak English as their first language. This is one of my favourite accessibility tips. Put a picture of the door to your building on your website. So when people come and find you, they don't just have to look for the number, or they don't have to look for the grey building when there are 10 grey buildings on the street. They know what they're looking for. And it just makes it so much quicker, it makes it easier, and it makes you seem more welcoming and considerate as well. So yeah, pictures can convey a lot of information that can't always be conveyed as well in words. Speaking of words, tip 5 is to use fewer words. This is the letter the UK government sent to every house in England about the coronavirus. And what I did, I crossed out everything that wasn't necessary and I highlighted everything that was. And you can see that very little of it is information that you actually need. It's a basic advice along with the website too, where you can get more information. And you can see how hard it is to pull that information out when there's so much other stuff around it. So yeah, using fewer words is really good. Listen, and listen properly. Autistic people like me, I have autism and ADHD, we tend not to speak with enough intention, and that's also true of certain people who have mental health problems, particularly people with depression. So people tend not to listen to us very well. They don't listen to the things that we're saying properly and sort of take the time to understand us always. And I was having a conversation with my husband recently, and I was talking about something that I'd mentioned before, and he said, well, I didn't think that was important. And my reply was, I've only got two topics of conversation. One is things that are important, and the other is people I fancied in the 1980s. So if I'm not talking about Michael Hutchence, it means it's important. Tip 7, know that people might be hiding it, and by it I mean their condition or their disability or their special needs. This is particularly true for people like me who are autistic. We spend, and especially for women as well, we're very used to masking and trying to fit in and hiding it, because that's that's just what people do, and it's particularly true for certain groups of people. I actually had a friend who was deaf, and I knew her for a year before I found out she was deaf, because she really wanted to fit in. So she got very good at lip reading, so nobody knew she was deaf. So that's a common thing, that people are hiding their disability. And connected with that is tip 8. Be aware that people might not know what they need. And this is one that always surprises people. We neurodiverse people like me, we don't realise that not everybody sees the world the way that we do. So we don't always know when we go to a place what we might need, because we don't know what's there, and we don't always know what to ask for. We don't know the setup, or we don't know, as I said before, we might not know the schedule and so on. And one way that you can help to be accessible for people who don't always know what they need is just to ask them, for example, like, do you want to sit near the front, or would you rather sit by the door? Do you want me to turn the volume up or down? Or do you want me to go over that again? And doing things like that is really helpful, because it can help us who don't always know what we need to actually think about it, think about what we need, and then communicate that to you. And one really good one as well is just to say, well, come to me if you do need anything, because then that channel of communication is open. Number 9, remember that how you create information is not necessarily how it will be received. So when I was creating this talk, I imagine that you will be entirely focused on every word that I'm saying, and that you will be hanging on my every word. But really, I know that's not true. I know that you're probably on your phone, you might be distracted by what's going on outside or by somebody coming in the room, or you might just be thinking about what to have for dinner. So even though I'm putting in lots of words and pictures, I'm not expecting you to remember them all. And that's something that we all need to do, that the information that we give people isn't going to be everything that they retain or even understand sometimes. So using those things that I mentioned earlier, using pictures or unusual bits of information, can help people to retain it. And my last accessibility tip is quite a surprising one. It's to do nothing. You don't always need to do something to be accessible. And for people like me, that's particularly important, because neurodiverse people are often seen as a challenge or a problem or something that needs to be dealt with. And when you treat us like we're normal and you welcome us in, it means more to us, because we haven't had a lot of that. And so it's really quite special to be included, because inclusion is accessibility with bells on. Thank you very much for listening to my lightning talk. Here are my contact details. You can find me on LinkedIn, Rachel Morgan Trimmer. My website is sparkleclass.com, and I'm on Twitter with the handle sparkleclass. Thank you very much.